Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is G and this is Aurora, my Brazilian rainbow boa, who is not going to sit still for this video, so I do apologize if she's not in focus or if the lighting is not as good as it can be, but I will do my best to keep her in frame. As you can see, she is very big. But today we are going to be talking about Brazilian Rainbow Boa Care. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time as I get the most questions about my Brazilian Rainbow Boa. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is not the start of the video. As I was editing, there were two things that I just kind of wanted to clarify a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So when making these videos, I just want to let you guys know that this is like a general overview. I won't say it's like really a care guide or like a all things you need to know about Brazilian rainbow boas and things like that. That would be like an hour video. So I just wanted to go ahead and clarify that first. So the other thing that I wanted to go ahead and bring up is about 2 months ago, you may have noticed in my other videos as well, I cracked one of my teeth on this side. And so I've had to wait for insurance to come through, which comes through in February. Thank you, Lord. But I didn't want to be an unnecessary distraction as you watch the video, because you're probably like, is your tooth okay? Is your tooth cracked? Yes, my tooth is cracked. I know, I can see it too. I clocked myself. Thank you. But that's not going to stop me from making content for you guys. I'm not so vain that that's like a big issue for me. It's temporary. But I did want to point it out because it can be a distraction when people are like, what's going on? Like, I know. But go ahead and enjoy the video. I love you guys. Did anyone see where the gecko went? That is so cute. Okay, and so again, as a Brazilian rainbow boa, they don't like to sit still too much. And I know, again, this isn't going to be the best lighting for her, but I will show various clips of her and other lighting in her enclosure and other settings as well. So you will get a very clear depiction of what she looks like, how big she is, and things like that. But keeping her in frame is hard enough as is. So we're just going to go ahead and try and just keep her in view so you can see her. She is about 7 years old, so she is a big and much older girl. I mean, not old as far as snake years, but I would say old as in Brazilian rainbow boa years, and I will explain exactly what I mean by that because there's a lot of issues with Brazilian rainbow boas. Okay, so just to go ahead and get started, one of the first things that I did want to go ahead and talk about with Brazilian rainbow boas as far as care goes is a temperature. That is, and humidity as well. We're going to start with temperature. That is something that people get quite often wrong. People tend to try and treat Brazilian rainbow boas kind of similar to how they treat their BCIs or BCCs, and that would be very incorrect and bad to do. So for Brazilian rainbow boas, they do not like a lot of heat. You will commonly find them in the coldest sections of their enclosure, like under the water dish or on their cool sides a lot. However, you do want to keep their max temperature under 85 degrees because anything over that does start to become harmful to your Brazilian rainbow boa. So there are a lot of things you can do to make sure that you do not go over that 85 degrees. Again, low water ceramic heat emitters were great for me.
Hi guys, I just wanted to clarify a point real quickly. The wattage for the ceramic heat emitter that you need, it does depend on enclosure size. So I said low wattage ceramic heat emitter, but I actually don't use that low of a ceramic heat emitter, so it's an error on my part. I just wanted to go ahead and clear that up, is do the research on the output so you know what's appropriate for you.
They keep humidity well as they're not super and overly drying. Like a basking light, they always get kind of too hot in my personal opinion. As well as heat mats as well. Aurora's enclosure is pretty big though. It's a 6x3x3 enclosure, so to have a heat mat in there would be like a massive heat mat. And I found that ceramic heat emitter works better as it kind of just heats the air in the enclosure versus making a dedicated hotspot, which seems to work out pretty good for her, and I've never had any issues with it so far. Now, with ceramic heat emitters, of course, they do not produce light. So for lighting in Aurora's enclosure, instead of using an LED light, I just use a UVB bulb. It doesn't affect the heating in the enclosure at all. The enclosure typically stays around 83 degrees or like 83.8 at the most, I believe. It doesn't get any hotter than that. So she's never roasting, she's never baking. She's currently in between my legs. So she's never roasting, never baking, which is super important. They do not, I cannot stress this enough, do not like heat as far as what you would typically see with a boa constrictor, a ball python, a king snake, or things like that. So you do want to keep that in mind. Again, never go over the 85 degrees. If you can avoid it, don't even hit 85 degrees. No, we're not, no, we're not doing that. Again. Okay, so for Brazilian rainbow boas as babies, their humidity requirement is pretty high. Pretty much for the first month or so of their life, they're gonna need over 90% humidity. You can keep that up until a good amount into the juvenile years, but you don't want to keep it too consistently when they start getting close to subadults, for the simple fact that it becomes too much humidity as a Brazilian rainbow boa ages. So as they do get older and they get to subadults as well as adults, you kind of want to start dropping it down right around the juvenile area to about probably 85% versus over 90. And then once they start getting to the subadult/adult area, their humidity requirement is perfectly fine to be in the 70s, like the low 70s, mid 70s, high 70s, up to 80% is perfectly fine. They do not need more than that. Otherwise, you're going to start running into respiratory issues if you do. I know some people that go lower than the 70%. I know people that go higher than the 80% and are somewhat successful or are successful with it. It really just depends, but I think that a comfortable place to go ahead and keep your Brazilian rainbow boa would be the 70s, just because it's like a perfect in-between. So those would be the main things that people get wrong in Brazilian rainbow boa care, and the things that quite often set them up for failure. Unfortunately, there's a lot of information on Brazilian rainbow boas, but not all of it is actually correct and accurate. That also brings me to my next topic, which I want to talk about, is health with Brazilian rainbow boas. A lot of people's Brazilian rainbow boas kind of just up and die, unfortunately, and I have seen quite of those things happen. And that isn't super uncommon. That's actually kind of the norm. People don't get their Brazilian rainbow boas to this age for either care reasons or also feeding reasons, which is what I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so feeding is going to be another thing that I'm going to be talking about, because the feeding schedules for Brazilian rainbow boas are quite different from your typical boa constrictor. Again, do not treat your Brazilian rainbow boa like your regular boa constrictors. They do not follow the same schedules, the same examples, the same nothing. So with Brazilian rainbow boas, when they are younger, they should be eating 3 to 5, not 3 to 5 times a week. Whew, that's a lot. They should be eating every 3 to 5 days. That would be pretty normal for a smaller Brazilian rainbow boa. And then as they get older and turn into adults, of course, it's going to get less and less. But your adult Brazilian rainbow boa should not be eating less than every 7 to 10 days. Yes, if you are feeding your adult Brazilian rainbow boa less than that, it is not getting enough food. It's not getting enough nutrition. It's not getting enough of anything. They don't follow the standard of slow metabolisms with boa constrictors like BCIs and BCCs, anacondas and things like that. These guys need to eat once a week. There is no exception for this. They absolutely 100% need to eat once a week. A medium to a large rat. Aurora gets a combination of medium to large, typically mediums, but every now and then I'll throw in a large for her, but typically I would just give her a medium rat. And that can also lead to malnutrition with Brazilian rainbow boas, as people do not feed them properly. I do get a lot of questions in DMs. I've had people say, oh, I'm feeding my juvenile every 14 days. I'm like, what? That's not enough. That's not enough. They eat way more. So when you're getting a Brazilian rainbow boa, expect to treat it feeding wise like a colubrid, because they're going to eat as much as a colubrid. So just to bring up some other controversial things as far as weight with Brazilian rainbow boas, that can be a little bit interesting. What I commonly see, and no offense to anyone out there, is malnourished, and as I said before, malnourished Brazilian rainbow boas. They're often way too skinny. They are slender. Aurora, she is big. I know she can look super massive in some of her pictures and things like that. However, she is still slender. She's not as thick as she looks in certain pictures and certain angles. They do need to maintain a sleek appearance, but they are and should be quite muscular. This should not be, I don't even know how to describe it. And I know a lot of people like to compare wild Brazilian rainbow boas to Brazilian rainbow boas in captivity. I've had that come up in plenty of conversation when people are like, oh, look at this wild one and look at yours. And I'm like, yeah, that wild one, I'm sorry, a wild adult Brazilian rainbow boa, which I have seen a YouTuber who I'll put up on here actually showed a wild adult Brazilian rainbow boa most likely, and it was extremely malnourished, and he acknowledged the fact that it was malnourished. I will go ahead and put that video down in the description. I'll also put his name somewhere on here. But do not look at a wild Brazilian rainbow boa and think that that is a standard for how a Brazilian rainbow boa is going to look and should look in captivity. There is healthy and there is unhealthy, and I'm not saying that all wild Brazilian rainbow boas are unhealthy and malnourished. That's not true, and that's not the case. However, this is an example of a healthy adult Brazilian rainbow boa. So for enclosures and enclosure sizes, of course you're going to be upgrading throughout your Brazilian rainbow boa's life, and you don't have to have a 6x3x3 like Aurora. I just happened to do that for her. A 4x2x2 would be a minimum requirement, especially if it's a male. A 6-foot enclosure would be an ideal, as again can reach up to 6 feet long, as Aurora does show and display here. But you don't have to get it that big for their adult life, but it is something to definitely consider to give them that room. They're not overly active during the daytime. Of course, they are a nocturnal species. They are not diurnal. So typically when they do come out, it's going to be in the dead of night, and you'll probably just spot them wandering their enclosure every so often during the daytime, but they will do most of their exploring at nighttime. And as far as how Aurora is kept in particular, she does have a mix of coconut husk and eco earth as the substrate, topped off with sphagnum moss as well. I really do like it to have plenty of it in there to keep the humidity up, as again, as we mentioned earlier, the humidity is super important to keep up. It is very easy for them to get respiratory infections. It's super easy for them to dry out, have bad sheds, and have lots of complicated issues. So humidity is super important. Stay on point with it, and definitely don't let it drop. Whew. Okay, so she is tired now, which is good for me because that means that I have less workout to do. So just to go ahead and talk about handleability, they are pretty handleable despite how Aurora is. It does take a lot more work and effort. They're not just going to sit still like a BCI or a ball python. They're going to want to move, and you're going to have to move with them a lot. I do not recommend putting them around your neck. I just left the end of her tail here because this doesn't bother anything. But the reason why is because, again, they will squeeze as hard as possible. I don't want anyone to be choked out. It is as big as she is. If you get a Brazilian rainbow boa this big, the full squeeze from this is going to sever the circulation. So you do want to keep in mind, please, with anything that's kind of big, you know, once you get to the 6-foot range, just be mindful about what you put around your neck. I know throughout this video we did go ahead and talk about the high mortality rate of Brazilian rainbow boas quite a bit. I know that can be kind of a morbid topic, but I did want to make it a point because it does happen so frequently that I didn't want to skip over it and just dodge it altogether, because it does happen so much. Again, seeing Brazilian rainbow boas like Aurora here is super uncommon. You don't see it too much, and that's unfortunate. It's because of misinformation, not noticing certain things. Maybe you're stressing them out. Maybe the temperature's off, maybe the humidity is off, maybe the feeding is off. The feeding schedule, I know, is a big one. Malnourishing your Brazilian rainbow boa is super easy to do, especially if you're not familiar with exactly what they need. So take it with a grain of salt, but also keep in mind that you want to keep and make sure that you are monitoring these things pretty steadily, especially if you get a newborn. They need everything to be perfect. You really can't slip on it. So I think in general that does kind of wrap up the Brazilian Rainbow Boa Care and what they need, what to look out for, the misinformation, addressing the high mortality rate in I think a productive way. So we're gonna go ahead and end the video here. And then of course, if you did like the video, of course, like, comment, subscribe, and share. You can also follow me on Instagram as well at ReptileTrainerG. And then of course, we'll see you in the next one.